Welcome back to Junior ECTV. In May 2015, Kids Help Phone undertook a national survey to learn more about the hopes and fears of teenagers in Canada. They surveyed 1,330 teens from across the country between the ages of 13 and 18 and asked them questions about the issues they face, the stresses they are under, and the help that they seek. Tonight, I'm pleased to welcome Alisa Simon, Vice President of Counseling Services and Programs at Kids Help Phone, to chat about the results with us. Thank you so much for being here, Alisa.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So I was really intrigued with the survey. I thought it was really interesting. I know all of our panel has read the survey, and so I thought we could get into it a little bit. My first question for you is, why did Kids Help Phone conduct this survey?
Yeah, so we conducted the survey for lots of reasons. We have over 500 young people who reach out to Kids Help Phone every single day to our professional counselors. So we hear from kids all over Canada. But we really wanted to go to kids who contact us, but also kids who don't contact us and maybe never would contact us, because we wanted to find out what is causing you the most stress right now, what's causing you the most challenges, and who is it that you would turn to when you needed help. And maybe that's Kids Help Phone, but maybe it's not. And so this really allowed us to talk to kids just like you, all over Canada, from every territory, every province, to get a real sense of what's happening with young people in Canada.
Okay, so that's really interesting. So was there anything surprising that came out of these results for you? Because you sort of deal in this space all the time.
Yeah, so one of the really surprising things for me was, as I said, tons of young people reach out to us every day. And the number one reason they reach out is around mental health and emotional health. And let me be clear, that's not necessarily mental illness. They're calling because they're feeling anxiety, they're feeling stress, and there is a huge concern that they want to deal with, but it's often really around kind of the emotions that they're dealing with. But when we ask people through our Teen Talk survey, what's the number one thing that is causing you stress? The number one thing was school. Again, not surprising, because kids spend a huge amount of time in school, right? You have homework, you're building relationships, you maybe are starting dating, all of these different things. But that's not what we hear most from kids. What we hear most from kids is about just the generalized kind of anxiety, the difficulty of life, that maybe depression, sadness, followed by peer relationships and then family relationships. So it's a little surprising to me that when we asked kids, it was school.
It was school, number one. And so I know everything happens at school because your relationships happen, bullying can happen at school, but a big thing was the homework aspect. Like you put it under that category. Can you tell us a little bit about those findings?
Yeah, so I mean, what they said, it was really kind of everything related to school, right? They said it was homework, it was the stress about succeeding, right? There's a real sense among young people in Canada that school is a pivotal part of your life, and it's not only pivotal to now, but there's a feeling that it is pivotal for your future. So you better succeed now, which is leading to more and more and more stress, because if you succeed now, that somehow is going to dictate whether or not you succeed in the future.
So, and I have noticed this because I work with so many young people through the Junior Economic Club, and I have noticed that there's an increasing amount of pressure on students your age at this point. Very different than when I was in school, which wasn't that long ago. But I didn't stress about school. I don't think it was my number one priority, to be honest, and I'm so impressed with you guys. Can you tell me a little bit about school and if it is really that stressful for you guys right now? Like, how do you feel? Christian, you're an academic achiever. How do you?
Some would say, teachers would not. But I mean, I don't know. I like to work. I mean, personally, I like to live by the thing, like idle hands are a devil's workshop. I get bored, like, easily. So I like to keep myself busy. Yes, that does incur stress. But, you know, I mean, I don't know if it's chemical or whatnot, or if it's just the way I am, but I like being busy, and I like kind of the pressure and, dare I say, the adrenaline of being like up against, not against the wall, because I don't procrastinate all the time, but you like being busy. You like having that ability to say, yeah, I'm doing something with myself. And once you like what you're doing, you know, which I do, you know, the saying is, a man who loves his job doesn't work a day in his life. That's the good kind of thing. I mean, I thank the Lord I'm not suffering from mental illness to the best of my knowledge. I can't really speak for the people who are, but I can definitely see from what I've heard and from what I hear from other people, and even those who I don't talk to, who you see in the environment, in the community, it's not something that you want to be in. And so I realize there's a fine line in between, you know, healthy pressure and, like, sort of climbing up the ladder that's falling down on you that is mental illness.
Lillian, how do you deal with pressure with school? Because I know, and how do people in your school deal with pressure?
Well, me personally, I'm very musically inclined, so I like to sing and I like to play the piano. So whenever I get too stressed, or whenever I was studying or reading textbooks or making notes, and I would get to a point where it's just like, I can't do this anymore, I'd put on a song, I'd throw in some piano music and I just de-stress, and then I just take it every step at a time. And I also reminded myself just to do things in smaller increments and not to take on the entire task of, oh, I'm going to need to graduate, oh, I need to think about university, oh, I need to get good grades or someone could get in. I just took it step by step, and I paced myself, because if you go too ahead of yourself, then you'll find yourself drowning in a lot of stress and anxiety. So it's really important to just be realistic with your goals and have SMART goals in terms of studying and
That's
research.
like a really well-balanced approach. I don't think every teenager feels that way. What about you two?
Would you like to start?
Yes, absolutely. Right now, I'm going over my co-functional identities in my head because I got a math test tomorrow. Then I'm thinking about paragraph structure for my world issues test tomorrow. Then I'm thinking, how did my English presentation go today? How about my business presentation? How about that essay I handed in last Tuesday? What happens is with schools is lots of the time, a lot of stress will happen because so much stuff will happen at the same time in 1 week period. Personally, for me, I think, I'm like in the matrix. I can see the numbers, So I understand that, I'm going to be stressed right now, but once all this is done, report card marks go in next Monday. The week after that, I'm going to be so relieved. I'm going to have virtually nothing. I'm going to be twiddling my thumbs and studying. So I know, the worst will leave. When a big wave comes, you just need to learn to hold your breath.
Okay.
You know what? I'm completely the opposite, because I decided I was going to be that one brilliant kid who took all the sciences and all the math. So no matter what, I have been, in the last 2 months, I've had one night where I've actually only done less than an hour of homework. I start homework at 6 and I work till 1 in the morning at least every morning. So in the last 2 months, I have broken down and cried 4 times, where on the regular, I only cry about once a year. So it's been really, really stressful for me. All my friends that I know, all of them, like, I've walked out of classrooms and there's just my friends on the floor bawling their eyes out.
Wow.
And I can't stand to sit here and watch my friends and myself practically kill ourselves to get into university, and I don't know what to do about it. So for us, it's a lot different of a situation with, I guess, my friend group than what you guys are experiencing.
For grade 12, I think I try my best to stay on top of things, but definitely grade 12, at least once a day, some kid's gonna cry. It's just an actual.
It's interesting though, because Alisa, I from what I gathered in the survey with the homework aspect, younger kids were reporting feeling more stressed than the older kids.
Yeah, it's true. So when we went and asked kids, the younger they were, the more stress they were feeling from school, and that's tended to get less and less as they got older. But the reality is, and I want you to be one of our counselors at Kids Help Phone, because we would say the kinds of things that you were saying, right? Because a lot of it is about, what are the coping mechanisms that we all can learn? So how do we break things down into small tasks? How do we take breaks to do what we love? How do we recognize that it's okay to break down and cry? Because in fact, it is stressful, right? You have to be able to figure out the coping mechanisms, talking about what's going on, not holding it all in. But I think that, what kids told us in our survey is that stress decreases. But I'll tell you that when we talk to young people on the phone and through live chat, and all the young people who come to Kids Help Phone, and we talk to them up to 25, they are talking about the fact that school is incredibly stressful through all of the ages, and really mirroring a lot of what you all are saying.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things, though, is because as you get older, bullying as an aspect tends to go down. It's mostly grades and marks that starts to go up, because you have, they're keeners, such as, myself, ever since I was in the 7th grade, and they start giving numbers instead of letters for your grade. I'm like, darn, how do I change that 9 into a 0 with a 9 in front of it? That's something, and people start to get nitpicky. Absolutely.
Would you guys say you put more pressure on yourselves, or do you think it's parent-related pressure? Do you feel pressure from your parents to succeed, or do you think you're putting more pressure on yourself?
Well, for me personally, I believe that it's not so much my parents pressuring me to be better, but me pressuring myself so that I don't end up like my parents. And not to be bad, not in a negative way. It's just that I don't want to have the life that I've had. I want my kids to have a better life. I know that in order for me to do that, education is the key, because that is how Canada works, right?
Yeah.
So I have a personal drive to be better and to do better than those that have come before me, and to set the stage for my younger sisters who are growing up. And maybe one of the ways that we could reduce stress for the younger kids is actually pull on a mentor or someone from above them that can help them out. And another thing that I find is really helpful is positive reinforcement, because if you're studying for a while and I'd be like, okay, I gotta finish this and this thing, and then maybe I can watch an episode of Futurama or The Big Bang Theory or something, just eat a chocolate chocolate bar afterwards.
Sure, reward yourself for the hard
and the
work.
other thing is that, like, I mean, for me, this is how I look at it, where I mean, the joke is I have trouble saying no to, like, anything because I want to try everything and I want to learn and do everything. And I recognize, and my parents have told me, but I also recognize myself, that, like, first and foremost, you are a student. You have to be strong academically and capable academically before you can do, like, all the cool extracurricular stuff that you really want to do. And not to beat up on my school courses, because I love all my courses. One of the great things about I'm in grade 11 now is you get to pick a lot of your courses, and I love every single one, even though they are work, is that you really get to, like, it's sort of necessary in order to, you have to have a strong foundation in order to build a good house. And, you know, you can't forget that foundation. So that's kind of what motivates me. But my parents certainly have told me, you know, we're there in case you forget to do that.
So I want to change direction a little bit and ask you a question, Alisa. What are the symptoms of stress in kids and teens? Because I think that a lot of parents don't recognize early enough when their teen is actually dealing with an incredible amount of stress. They don't know how to pinpoint what the signs and the warning signs are. What are they? What would you identify them
what
as?
we usually say to parents, but also to peers, is when you start noticing some significant changes in behaviors. So it's hard to say, you know, if you're crying more, because for some people crying isn't what they're going to do. For some people it's withdrawing.
Right.
For some people it's going to be listening to really, really loud music when they never used to. But it really is about when you notice in either your kids or in your friends that they are behaving really different than they used to. That's a little warning sign. And it's a little warning sign that something's going on. It doesn't mean this is terrible. It doesn't mean they're going through some big mental health challenge, but it's time to check in. And that's what we say to families. That's what we say to kids who are calling us, who are concerned about their friends. And then it really is to go and have a conversation, right? It's
Right.
And that's not always easy, both for the young person who is concerned about their friend or for the parent who's concerned about their kid. It's also not easy for the kid themselves. And we see certainly at Kids Help Phone some gender differences. So, you know, it's not to stereotype, but younger guys in general don't want to
Have a
talk
harder time.
about what they're going through as much as females do. And so it's a real barrier sometimes to get a young guy to talk about, yeah, I can't handle what's going on, because we try and teach guys that somehow
You have to
being
be
a man
strong. Yeah.
means you're strong. And actually, Kids Help Phone just started a new service about 3.5 weeks ago now.
heard about those,
called
yeah.
Bro Talk. And it's at brotalk.ca, and it's really focused on guys kind of 14 to 18 to really say, this is a safe place for you to say, I'm stressed, I'm anxious, I'm having challenges, and can we get more guys to reach out?
And are the counselors that give the advice on Bro Talk all boys as well, men?
They aren't. Actually,
Oh, okay.
we went out and we talked to guys all over Canada to set up that service. We did a huge amount of research because we wanted to figure out, why aren't guys contacting Kids Help Phone?
Right.
Why aren't they going to mental health services? Why aren't they getting help when they need support? And what they said to us is they didn't necessarily want guy counselors. What they wanted is, sometimes they wanted a guy, but they actually often wanted a female. If they're talking about relationships, if they were talking about LGBTQ issues, they wanted to talk to a female. And in fact, our Teens Talk survey, when we asked teens, who do you go to when you're stressed? Number one, moms.
Yeah.
Number one,
How do you
moms.
guys feel about that? Like, if you were stressed, who would you turn to? I'm just interested to get your opinion.
Can I say God? Because
Yeah.
that's what I do.
Okay, sure, absolutely.
Yeah, and my best friends.
Okay, but that's good. So religion plays a role. You feel like you can, you know, talk it out that way, which I think is great. It's a great tool. Christian?
I try and, to be totally honest, I try and kind of spread it out. I try and diversify a little bit. I'm lucky enough, I think that my parents, some family members, a few close friends I think I have, I'm lucky enough to have that I could probably count on in, God forbid, a situation like that. I could probably talk to them and get a bunch of different opinions on what to do.
Okay, that's good. Layla?
I honestly talk to my cat because both my parents work high-end jobs, so they're super stressed out, and I don't want to add on their stress. And obviously, all my friends are also super stressed out, so I don't want to add onto their stress either. And I don't really like interact with anyone else nowadays because I'm at school and then I'm at home doing homework till 1 in the morning, and I don't really have much of a life outside of that.
So you do kind of feel like you don't have anyone to talk to because I don't think your cat's giving you the advice.
No, my
Maybe
cat
the
is
love.
not giving me any good advice. He just sits there and pukes on me. So
Oh no, you
Not
can
good
talk
advice.
to me,
Okay,
just so you
Rhiannon, I'll
know.
call
Or
you.
Kids Help Phone.
Or Kids
I'll call
Help
you guys
Phone.
too.
Yeah, Teddy.
Yeah, I go straight to kidshelpphone.ca and I read their tips and stuff like that. I mean, if I ever had an existential crisis, of course my parents would be there, my friends would be there, but I think most of the time, especially just having I'm someone who's the other way around. Just by having other friends who are stressed out and who like unload on me, it sort of reminds you any problem that you're having, there's probably someone else who's had the same problem too. And you say, hey, look at them, they graduated. Look at them, they're in X program that I want to get into. So you sort of start to realize that, again, you know, don't bottle it up. Try to release it, stuff like that. But you will be all right with certain levels of stress. And if anything really bad happens, you know, look at these people. They talked to someone and nothing happened. It just helped them out. No, you know, the skies didn't crack open. No one called them, you know, a wuss or anything like that. There were people genuinely cared about them.
When I was in high school, you know, we didn't have these conversations. It wasn't that long ago. I mean, it was still quite a while ago, but not that long ago. And I feel as though it's changed so much. I'm really glad to hear you guys saying that there's less stigma around talking and reaching out, because I know that when I was about 16 years old, I started to suffer from panic attacks and anxiety, and it's like it came out of nowhere. I had no idea what was going on, and I felt as though I was the only one my age experiencing this kind of stuff. And I felt so isolated, and it was like nobody was talking about anxiety or stress, and it was almost like, why are you having stress and anxiety when you're 16? And I'm so lucky that I had a parent that I was able to be close to. My mom helped me tremendously, and she sort of guided me through that process. And now when I talk to my peers now, so people that I went to school with then, they all said that they also experienced similar things, but nobody was saying anything. And it would have been so game-changing for me to hear that somebody else felt that same way too.
I'll just add quickly. One of the things that I've heard some people take trust in, I mean, I don't know if this is true with you guys, but I think I'm the youngest person here. I turned 16 on Sunday. And one of the things that you take hold in is that people have told me and a lot of my friends over the course of our lives that puberty is probably the most emotionally, like in terms of mountains and valleys, time of your life. You take trust in the fact that things will get better. Like everyone goes through, just in terms of the hormones that are going through your brain, puberty is tough. Sometimes it's better to feel like, A, I'm not going through this alone, and B, like there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other interesting thing that came out of the survey that I saw was around the sort of drugs and addiction issue. Can you tell us a little bit about those findings, and then we can discuss?
Yeah, so it was a really interesting finding. So when we asked young people about what their big concerns were, we found a real difference in what French-speaking young people said versus English-speaking young people. And French-speaking young people were much more likely to say that drugs and alcohol was a big concern. What's interesting about this is, in part, we have done a separate survey of parents, and we found the exact same thing with French-speaking parents who said that their number one issue that they thought impacting their kids were drugs and alcohol.
Wow.
So when we look at the data for Canada and we look at the kids who are reaching out to Kids Cell Phone, we don't see any real differences in drug and alcohol use in English versus French-speaking kids. But when we asked them, French-speaking kids were much more likely to say drugs and alcohol were a real concern.
I think one thing could potentially be in Quebec drinking age, it's 18, right? So one minor thing about that is that means grade 12s in high school, a majority of them will have access to alcohol, which will mean if you go to any party with any grade 12 there will be alcohol. So it could just be the pressure aspect of that.
That's interesting.
And even though, of course, here it's not like 18-year-olds can't get alcohol, but the whole concept is, since over there, they can so easily get it. It's just hey, you know what? I have to go to my tutor, then I have to go to hockey practice, and then I'll hit up the LCBO or whatever acronym it is in French.
That's actually a really interesting point that I would have never thought of, but I guess it could be true. Maybe that one extra year does really make the difference in terms of access
just the concept
and everything
of having
else.
it in the high school
Yeah,
directly.
that's really interesting. Okay, we're gonna come back and we're gonna continue talking about it because it's really good, and I'm finding out so much. Thank you for your honesty. We'll be right back with more on teen stress and anxiety right after the break.